We have a guy meditating, Buddha. Jesus wasn't a white man, he was a snake. When the barbarians showed up to our land, we already had the Bible, but we didn't have Jesus. The symbol we had was a serpent, and the serpent was the symbol of salvation. Now, guess what somebody gonna say? Sanchez, that don't make it no better. People worshiping Jesus and we're worshiping a snake. You're right, but you know where you're wrong at? We wasn't worshiping no dang on snake. That snake was a personification of the spiritual energy inside of man. It's called a Kundalini serpent. When the enemy came to our land, we taught him about the Kundalini. We taught him about the soul within man that is seeking to control the body. This serpent inside of your body is the righteous force. That's the part of you that's feeling guilty when you do wrong. It's a sine wave of energy that flows up and down the spinal cord, or the voice within us directing our actions. And this is how our spirit interact with our body. So there's literally a more refined version of you inside of your body. And if you silence yourself and meditate and start adhering to this consciousness, this voice within you, it will guide your steps and make you manifest your greatest version on this earth. You see this snake on the cross right there? They replaced the serpent with Christ. Now, why did they do that? Remember what I asked you earlier. How did the enemy give us the Bible if we wrote it? The enemy didn't give us the Bible. What he did was revised it and turned the archetype into a white man. When the enemy came over here, the serpent was the archetype before Christ. One of the symbols for Buddha is the serpent. Sanchez, why the hell did we have a serpent on the tree? We was practicing Buddhism. The whole concept of the serpent on the tree come from Buddhism. When you go to the Grand Canyon, you see the same thing. Buddhas all over the place. And you see serpents everywhere. When you go to the pyramid Kukulkan, it got the sacred serpent on it. The feathered serpent was the Mayan deity of resurrection and reincarnation way before Jesus. People, indigenous Americans, had the serpent for resurrection. And guess what? The serpent wasn't a blood sacrifice. It ain't like we killed the snake and put it on the cross to remove our sins. The serpent represented resurrection because the serpent represents the spirit force inside of man. That's the part of you that rise up out of the body when you die. That's why the serpent represents ascension, resurrection before Christ. Before Christ, we was teaching people that the spirit within you is gonna rise up and live on when you die, regardless of what you did. Hinduism teaches that immortality is gonna be given to you no matter what. In our original spiritual system, you don't got to do good to be immortal. In our original spiritual system, if you got a soul, you gonna be immortal anyway. You can't die. No one can give you immortality. If you are an immortal, you're just an immortal. Nothing can create you, nothing can destroy you. You've been here forever. There's no beginning to your soul, and there's no end to it. The only beginning is when your soul entered the body. Now it forgot who the hell it is as an immortal sovereign being, but it will remember when it died. Immortality ain't a gift. It's just what the fuck we are. No one can give you immortality. No one can take it from you. In the old system, we taught that if you do bad, you will live forever having bad shit happen to you with karma. We didn't teach that if you do bad, you ain't gonna get immortality from Jesus Christ, who is the blood sacrifice. No. That creates a servitude system to where now I got to worship and be a servant to Christ so I can get immortality. No, we didn't have a system of servitude. We had a system of sovereignty, meaning that you're gonna be immortal regardless. But how you're gonna be is up to you. Whether you live forever with a good experience or whether you live forever with bad shit keep happening to you in all of your lifetimes. That was what we taught. You didn't have to beg nobody for immortality. What you had to do was work on yourself for good karma. Heaven ain't a place. Heaven is a system of currency, spiritual currency, meaning how much good you've done. Because all the good you doing, you're building up spiritual currency on a karmatic economic system. You have a spiritual economic system and you have an earthly one. When the enemy showed up, we was teaching the enemy that the serpent is the teacher. The serpent is the righteous force within man that's directing his steps the right way. We showed them the image that you see, and we showed them how the serpent lives within man, and the serpent is the bringer of wisdom, and the serpent actually helps guide man. It's the inner voice that's making you feel bad when you do bad. This is what we was teaching the barbarian, and he didn't like that. The barbarian hate the serpent because the serpent brings wisdom. And the barbarian can't control people with wisdom. The barbarian can't control people with self-control, people who listening to the voice within. In order for the barbarian to control you, he got to make you listen to the voice of God and follow God's will, the Bible. That's how the barbarian control you. But if you thinking for yourself and listening to the voice inside of you, you ain't listening to the voice of God. You listening to the inner voice of your own inner spirit. So the word God is the word guide. You're listening to the guide, not the God. When the enemy found out all this, he said, we got to get rid of the serpent. And how did they get rid of the serpent? They said that the serpent is the devil and it is evil. It's called inverting the truth. What is inversion? For you literally to teach the opposite of what I'm saying about the same thing. It's that simple. If our ancestors is teaching that the serpent is the righteous one and the bringer of wisdom, then guess what the barbarian gonna teach? The serpent is the non-righteous one and the bringer of ignorance and confusion. And when they teach that, we're gonna stop looking within. And when the enemy teach our children that he conquered, because they gonna say, hey, what this serpent mean? And the enemy can't tell them the truth. When the enemy take over your damn land, he don't remove the symbols. They still gonna be there for the next generation. So when the next generation grow up and ask about their ancestral symbols, the enemy gotta revise the meaning of the symbol to make you a barbarian and to take you away from your ancestral connection and the spiritual path of your ancestors. So now when people say, well, what's the meaning of this serpent? The enemy say that serpent is evil. That serpent is the devil. And when the enemy says that, guess what the enemy just said? Evil lives inside of man. Look at the image, y'all. I'm trying to teach you why they are telling everybody we are inherently evil. The serpent represents evil in the barbarian system. And guess what? It is known that the serpent lives within man. They inverted the whole story. They know for a fact that the image of the serpent inside of man ain't gonna go nowhere. See, this image that I'm showing you now, the Christians call this New Age demonology. When a Christian see this shit, they look at this as Satanism. They look at all this chakra, Kundalini shit with snakes and serpent. These Christians look at this as evil, what I'm showing you right now. They condemn this type of shit. In their mind, the serpent is the devil and it's inside of man. This is how we strayed away from this and start teaching we got to get the serpent out of us. We're born in sin with the devil in us. I'm telling y'all how it started. When our ancestors was trying to teach the barbarians this truth, the barbarians couldn't handle the truth. So they revised the truth, inverted the truth. And now people are scared of their own inner voice. And they're taught, don't lean onto your own understanding. Don't use your own will. Follow God's will, meaning follow the external voice that's coming from your government. follow the external voice that's coming from your pastor, your community, your church. They started teaching that the inner voice was evil. Once the barbarian inverted this symbol, once the barbarian made the serpent evil, by default, he made man evil because the serpent dwells within man. And this goes back to what I was telling y'all, why these people teach that we're inherently evil. They teach that you're born with the devil in you because we was teaching about the Kundalini. But this ain't got nothing to do with no evil dragon in you making you do wrong. It has everything to do with an inner voice within you making you do right. But now don't nobody listen to their inner voice no more because they believe that that's the devil in them. And that is their own ignorant, inherently evil understanding. This serpent is what made us sovereign, because sovereignty means free will. Free will means the will of the soul. That's why people who practice free will, they was taught follow their heart. Because when we're faced with a decision, we're going and battling our mind. We confused on what to do. And the ancestors said to silence yourself because the higher self always knows the best answer. But we don't do that. We're taught to just make a decision out of the external chaos versus going within. And we're taught that's the right way to do it because if we go within, the wrong answer is in us. Inside of us is all the right answers we need, but they got us looking outside of us, but we refuse to look within because they're teaching us leaning on your own understanding gonna create you a life of chaos. But guess what? Following the will of God got people in a life of chaos already. They inverted this truth by taking a spiritual symbol and making it a literal symbol. You see how the serpent is wrapped around a pole? It ain't nothing but a sine wave. It's just energy in motion. Serpents wrap themselves around a branch, and that's how they travel the tree. They wrap around a branch and they go like a screw. And they go from one part of the tree to the other. You see it all the time. Here it is. Why did the ancestors choose this for the spiritual symbol? Well, it's called transitioning. The soul in your body is using the central nervous system as a highway to get from the lower realm to the higher realm, just like this snake is using the tree branch to get from one location to another. Just like a snake uses a tree branch as a highway, the soul within your body is using your central nervous system as a stairway to heaven. It's starting at the root chakra and it's climbing all the way up to the crown chakra to where it's gonna exit your body and free itself from the simulation. You'll have an out-of-body experience and you'll leave the body and leave the earth, AKA death or transitioning. The sine wave is showing you how energy travels, how energy transports itself. We're showing you the transport system that spiritual energy uses to get from point A to point B. And the best way to teach this is looking at a snake on a tree. Our ancestors would teach you stuff, but using nature and speaking in parable and analogy. But if you take this stuff literally, you're gonna become a barbaric Christian following the papacy, thinking that there was a talking snake on a tree talking to Adam and Eve, because you taking it literal when it's supposed to be taken spiritual. Christians believe that there was a real talking snake on the tree talking, but snakes don't talk no more, but they was talking at that time. And the thing is, the snake that's talking to you, trying to influence you to be like God, is the voice inside of you trying to make you activate your God self, your higher mind. The barbarians started teaching us that that was a bad thing. Yeah, the barbarian tricked you. He said, man, Satan is evil because he wants you to be like God. Wait a minute, dog. Ain't that the goal of religion? If you are a religious priest and you telling your people it's wrong to imitate God, what the fuck are we doing? Ain't religion to make us good? You can't spell good without God. So imitating God is imitating good. They got y'all evil as hell, boy. They got everything backwards. If you go up in a church and say, I want to be like God, they'll rebuke you, man. If you tell a Christian right now, man, I want to be like God, they'll say, ooh, that's blasphemy. You evil, boy. How the hell am I evil for trying to be like God? Wouldn't that make me good? It'll make me evil if I'm trying to be like the devil, right? If we looking for a good example of righteousness, shouldn't we be trying to be like God? Christians will tell you that. They'll say, he trying to be like God. That's blasphemy. You can't be like God. Because the inner voice inside of us is always telling us the right thing to do. But we go against it and listen to our flesh and our body. We taught the barbarian that the serpent has the wisdom to make man a god. But the barbarian didn't like that, because the barbarian want man to be a servant that he can control and subdue. So when the barbarian heard this, he said, we got to revise this. We got to change this. And the barbarian made that blasphemy. He made the serpent guilty of a crime for trying to help us out. Something that was good became bad now. And we was teaching folks, listen, the inner voice within you will make you like a god. It will make you your best version. But when the barbarian get hold to it, oh, that's evil. Why? Because it go against your system. It makes every human accountable for their actions. It makes them a practitioner of free will and sovereignty. And in that system, you can't have rulers, authority, and a fiat government. The only way you can have a fiat government and a debt system is if it's founded on religion. Everywhere you see Abrahamic faith being practiced, you see a debt system with foreigners controlling that land and the indigenous people at the bottom. Everywhere you see where the papacy set up, everywhere we went at and gave people God who didn't have it, they're now at the bottom of society and they don't own nothing. They're servants now, but they was once sovereign. You can have a tribe in the jungle, sovereign. Ain't nobody ruling over them. They minding their business, living in paradise on their own land. And then the Christians come, give them the Bible, and guess what they teach them? When the Christians came and gave us the Bible, they make you want authority over you. You pray for authority. Give me a master. You know why? The first master you accept is spiritual. And when you accept him, you accept the physical version. The barbarian tell you that the serpent in your ancestral teachings is evil. He teach the new kids that our ancestors was worshiping the devil. And in this new system, it's easy for them to believe that. In the world, they teach that the ancients worship the devil. The ancients was into paganism and they worship evil deities and they sacrifice kids to like the devil. And most Christians believe that their ancestors was worshiping the devil. And they will tell you, I'm glad that the white man conquered us. Everything happened for a reason. If the white man didn't enslave us, we would still be worshiping the devil, going to hell. We wouldn't have salvation. People will tell you, I'm glad my land was taken. I'm glad I'm no longer sovereign because I get to go to heaven now when I die. Even though, bro, you been was gonna go to heaven. Jesse Lee Peterson went viral saying that shit. Thank God for slavery. Charleston White agrees with him. Here go another one. Thank God for slavery. Kimberly Daniels, thanks God for slavery. You can keep on doing this. When the enemy came to our land and conquered it, he taught the children after the reset that all of the ancient symbols was evil and that the ancient people was into paganism. And because of that, people will tell you our ancestors worship pagan gods. If you show a chakra chart in the South, they gonna say that shit is satanic. Here is the image of Jesus Christ that they got up at the Vatican. And boy, is it something, because Jesus is literally a serpent. Look at it. It's a snake head, and the snake is on a tree. They telling you right in your face what your original spiritual system was. When the barbarians showed up in this land, we was practicing Buddhism. So look at Buddha right there in the tree, and look at what the white man did. He turned that to his God and said, listen, the new version is a real blood sacrifice that died on this tree for your sins. Our ancestors said that Buddha was the name of the voice of God within you. Buddha ain't no real person. Buddha is just a name they're given to the soul within man. And here's how the Christians corrupted Buddhism and turned it into Christianity. I'm giving you the images right now. Why do we see images of Jesus in the middle of a tree? When you go to these old cathedrals and temples and you look at a lot of this stained art, when you open up some of these old Bibles and old manuscripts and they got these colorful illustrations, ask your pastor, why are there so many images of Jesus inside of a damn tree? Did he die on a cross or on a tree? Ask your pastor that. Because your pastor gonna scratch his head. He gonna say, you know what? I don't know why Jesus on that tree. Jesus supposed to be on a cross, but he on a tree. You know why Jesus on that tree? Because Jesus is the serpent. The real Jesus was the serpent at first. And he was trying to teach man and woman how to be like God. And they got rid of the real Jesus. And they gave you the fake ass Jesus right here on that tree, who's saying, I'm a blood sacrifice to remove your wrongdoings. You see the difference? In order for you to be like God, you have to take accountability for your wrongdoings, because if you don't, you ain't gonna master yourself. When you master yourself, you literally become God. What is a God? Because that's the part y'all missing. God was simply a title that they gave a sovereign individual that was ruling over themselves. That's why Jesus had the title of God. Why? Because Jesus didn't follow the Caesar. Jesus didn't operate under the world system of getting rid of accountability and world conquest. Jesus, the real Jesus, operated under do unto others as you have them do unto you. And that's why Jesus lived such a good, righteous life. It was never about the crucifixion. It was about the example of how to live. Christ said, I didn't come to do away with the law. I came to fulfill it. That means I came to show you damn barbarians how to follow the law, because y'all keep saying this shit is too hard. And Christ said, man, give me this law. Let me show you how to do this shit. It ain't that hard to not kill, not steal, to keep your hands to your damn self. Look at me. But somebody lied to y'all. They said Christ came to do away with the law. Now you don't gotta follow the law and behave yourself. That ain't why Christ came. It had nothing to do with blood sacrifice. Christ came to fulfill the law. So how the fuck do we get into blood sacrifice? Because you ain't following the real Christ. Guess who you following? Paul. Paul was a Roman. And Paul kept writing letters to the Romans, and you got to ask yourself a question. If Paul is my homeboy, why the fuck he keep writing letters to my enemies? I got a future video coming out. I'm going to prove to y'all Paul was the real Judas. Everything Jesus taught, Paul taught the opposite. Paul made his own goddamn religious system, and that's what everybody under the day. They ain't Christians, they're Paulinians. Paul was working with Rome before he even got with Christ. He was killing Christians. Then when Paul got with Christ, he kept in contact with the damn Romans while they was persecuting. How the fuck you a Christian now? but you still keeping in touch with the ops. Paul was a damn infiltrator. And he created this new system y'all under. I'ma prove that the church is in alignment with the teachings of Paul and ain't doing nothing Jesus said. Paul literally told the Romans when he wrote them, because we're not under the law. Paul is the one that created the doctrine of exemption. And when they revised and gave us the New Testament, they made Christ speak and say, well, I'm coming to be a sacrifice. Yeah, Christ is saying he coming to die for our sins. Which Christ is saying it? The white version. This is the Christ that's saying it. The pagan version. The real Christ was a serpent. And this serpent was not telling Adam and Eve, I'm on this tree to die for your sins. That serpent was telling Adam and Eve, if you listen to me, I can make you like God. Because that's the voice inside of you that's giving you internal wisdom. That's your higher self. If you're in alignment with the voice within you, you are now God. Because what was Jesus? Jesus lived his whole life in communion with God, listening to the voice of God within him, directing his actions, and he wasn't doing evil. That's the example we need to imitate. Forget the cross and the blood sacrifice. That's what Paul got y'all thinking about. The whole story of Christ to begin with was to teach barbarians, to give them a superhero, an archetype that they can look up to follow the law. You got to keep in mind, the barbarian keep telling the world, he taught us how to be good. It's the other way around. We didn't even have no commandments and no Bible. The law is written in our heart because we got a consciousness as sovereign beings. But when the barbarians showed up, we tried to give them a spiritual system only to find out they don't have spirits. So guess what we gave them instead? Religion, a list of do's and don'ts. If you don't have a soul, you gotta be told what's right and wrong because you can't feel it. The moment a motherfucker with a soul is doing something wrong, they feel it in their heart and they tell me I'm lying. You ain't even gotta do it. You can just be planning it out. When you're planning out this robbery, your heart is beating your ass. It's telling you, you know you wrong, right? The barbarians was able to kill up a whole society of people. They was singing songs after that shit. They had hanging on trees while they was eating and singing songs over here. They don't feel no guilt. So how do you tame a person like that don't feel guilt? You got to tell them verbatim, do not kill, do not steal, do not lie. You don't got to tell a nigga with a soul that because he can feel it when he doing wrong. The barbarian told y'all he gave y'all religion to make you a good person. And the truth is, when the barbarian showed up, he didn't know nothing about religion or spirituality. He knew something about capitalism. That was his spiritual system. He knew how to capitalize off people's mistakes and weaknesses. If the enemy saw you slipping, he'll take your shit over. You better not be slipping because he's going to capitalize off your mistake. That's their system. They never had a religious system or a spiritual system. They only know if he's weak and I'm strong, I can take his shit. That's called capitalizing. I'm stronger than him. Ooh, I can take his stuff because I'm stronger than him. Let me capitalize off the fact that I'm stronger. That's called a capitalist, AKA a barbarian. They never gonna get enough stuff to make them happy because it's not about taking your stuff. It's about overpowering you because I can. This is the way barbarians think. People may say, well, don't you think if you get enough gold and diamonds and land, you ought to be good? It ain't about the gold and the land. It's about the fact that there are some people over there who's weaker than us and no one's ruling over them. That's the way the barbarian think. He looks at it like, wait a minute. There's some people over there that I'm stronger than, and I haven't overpowered them yet and made them my servants. We got to go take that too. The barbarian feels like if I'm stronger than you, God want me to be ruling over you. That's why he created survival of the fittest, the strongest win. We didn't create that in our society. The strong didn't overpower the weak in our system, because if you were strong as hell, you still had to follow the law. Do unto others as you have them do unto you. You couldn't just go and take that man just because you stronger than him and you can, like a bully, because you had to follow the law to be a part of our society. That ensured that everyone behaved themselves and treated everybody right. Even if you could beat me up, maybe you can beat me up and take my but guess what? The bullies in Tartaria treated everyone good. The bullies in the barbarian system were their leaders. There were two different kind of people living on earth. There were two ways of governing your societies, and the barbarians had their little pockets of societies practicing it their way, but most of the world was under the law. The barbarians took over when they entered the free world. They exercised free will, they mingled with us, and then their true nature came out when it was too late. We had trusted them, taught them everything, they learned our ways, and they turned it over. They rewrote everything, got rid of the old system.